Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport Baithak podcast. I'm your host DD, and joining you today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we will be talking about Extreme E. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready our opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Hello Vedant, how have you been?
Hello Divya, I have been quite well. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Still buzzing from the great F1 weekend we had, yesterday, and still trying to come off. Like it still feels like a dream in my head to have such a great first F1 race of the season. But we're not here to talk about F1, so let's talk about Extreme E. And it's been rather surprising. Extreme E starts in less than 5 days, and there's no hype about it. It's not trending on social media. It's not trending anywhere really, and it's been pretty quiet from them too. I haven't heard anything from their channels either. Unlike how a couple months ago when the F1 drivers had announced their Extreme E teams, Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg, and Jensen Button. There was some hype about it, but it has all died down, and it's been a really weird time.
Yeah, the hype. Like we can't see the hype on social media, but I suppose it's just the calm before the storm. I think Extreme is a great initiative, and it's going to take the motorsport world by.
It's going to take the motorsport world by storm, and I hope so because this is Alejandro Agag's second venture in motorsport, in electric motorsport per se. He also was one of the founders of Formula E, and we've seen Formula E grow from strength to strength. And while Formula E was based on racing in urban city centers to promote electricity as the future of transport technology and whatnot, Extreme E it sends a similar message but in a totally different way. So Extreme E is also Alejandro Agag's baby, and he has built the sport out of concern for the climate crisis just like he did for Formula E. But the series' goal is to use electric racing to highlight remote environments under threat of climate change issues and to encourage all of us through that to take positive action to protect our planet's future. And I think what Alejandro Agag has put together is really, really fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Definitely. The steps Extreme E has taken with all the sustainability in mind, and we'll talk about it later. The ship and the locations. So it's definitely one of the most innovative motorsports ventures in recent times.
Absolutely, and I think at the core of it lies Extreme E's message and what Alejandro Agag is trying to communicate to the rest of the world. So as we know, Extreme E is a signatory of the United Nations Sports for Climate Action Framework, and so their goals are also in line with that framework that they agreed upon. So Extreme E is striving to promote greater environmental responsibility, reducing the overall climate impact from sports, using its platform to educate for climate change, promoting sustainable and responsible consumption, and it's trying to advocate for climate action through its communications. And I think those are big goals, but those are goals that we all need to strive towards. And I think Extreme E might just be the platform that we all need to push us into taking action ourselves.
Yeah, definitely the Paris Agreement goals and all these goals which Extreme E is also pursuing. All these are very important for the future of our planet and for us as a civilization.
Abs- absolutely, and I'm here supporting Extreme E's message as you are, and I hope more people get on board and the hype becomes real, and we can bring about actionable and actual change. So let's dive into the nitty and gritty of Extreme E. Let's talk about the car. Let's talk about the locations. Let's talk about the teams and drivers. There's so much to be excited about. Let's hype this thing up. Let's build the hype here at Motorsport Baithak because we can do it. And let's talk about the different race format that Extreme E is bringing along with it. So there's a lot to talk about right now. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about the Extreme E ship and why it is so special, and why the ship is at the core of the Extreme E's operations and the message and everything.
All right. So the RMS St Helena is a former Royal Mail ship of the United Kingdom, and it serves as a floating paddock. So it's quite unique in what they are trying to do, because the paddock itself goes from race to race. So there's, like we see in other racing series, there's a lot of construction going on for each paddock, and there's a lot of plastics and a lot of non-renewables involved. So with this ship and with the floating paddock, there are no non-renewables. There's one paddock which goes from place to place. So there's no waste as such. And the ship itself is, the engine is modified, so it runs on low sulfur diesel, which is relatively better than regular shipping gasoline. It reduces carbon emissions relative to air freight, and most importantly, the ship is also a research vessel, and it will be carrying scientists to different conferences on these race locations, and these race locations, as we know, are quite remote. So the ship would be essential to carry these scientists and carry the conference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the ship is basically the headquarters for the race. It is literally the heart of the race. So that is that. Let's talk about the other thing that makes the series different from everyone else. The car in the series. Now the car is an SUV per se, and it's made by Spark Racing Technologies. The batteries are produced by Williams Advanced Engineering, and the car is fitted with niobium reinforced steel alloy tubular frame, and it's supposed to be super strong. But even though it's an SUV, it can reach speeds of 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than 4.5 seconds. It has a 400 kilowatt hour, 540 horsepower battery, and it still weighs 1650 kilograms, which is crazy. All these facts coming together, it's insane. And we'll be, again, as you said, racing in remote locations. And the Odyssey 21, as you remember, was showcased in the 2020 Dakar Rally in Saudi Arabia by Ken Block. And we all saw what the car can do there. For those who haven't seen, please go onto YouTube and look it up. Ken Block, Dakar Rally 2020 Electric Odyssey. And I think it's a special car, and it poses a different challenge compared to what we've seen so far on track. It's like a weird open rally race that we have never seen before. It's like WRX but different.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very interesting concept they are bringing, and as you said, the car is quite extraordinary. And we know the electric motors are quite quick in their acceleration, and with the weight of an SUV, the speed which it will achieve, it will be quite fun to watch the series.
Absolutely. But the most important thing, and like the thing that I'm excited about the most about Extreme is basically sitting at home, but yet getting to go to all these different and beautiful locations across the planet. So first of all, Extreme on 3rd and 4th April will be in the Saudi Arabian desert, followed by the next race, which will take place on the 20th and 30th of May in Senegal. It's an ocean race, as they've put it, and then Extreme we will be going to Greenland, which is a glacier race, it's the Arctic race on 28th and 29th August, and the 4th race will be in the Amazon forest in Brazil on 23rd and 24th October, and it will finally conclude with the 5th race in Argentina, which is the glacier race, on the 11th and 12th of December. So not a lot of racing to look forward to, but definitely something unique to look forward to this year.
Yeah, definitely. All these places, as we mentioned earlier, are remote locations, and these places are actually the places which are most affected by climate change at the moment, and these are the places that need most of our attention to make a better future for ourselves and for the locals there. So going there and having those conferences with the locals there, it's going to be a great initiative for Extreme E and for climate change, for fighting climate change.
Absolutely, and I think, like I said before, we need to figure out what we can do to play our part in this framework, in this movement towards addressing climate change. What is our part that we can do every day? It doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be a grand action, but the little things do matter. But yeah, let's look forward to the teams and drivers. Now, I was looking at the teams and driver lineup. before we sat down and before recording the podcast, and there's a lot of talent in the field and from different places. It's not, you would think that everyone would come from rallying or from a similar background, but everybody comes from a different background, and there's a lot of experience. Some people are young, they're just starting off. Some people are really old and have already retired from their sport but are coming back to race once again.
Definitely, it's a great grid. We have the grid so Extreme E is promoting gender equality along with climate change, and the grid, all the teams have
Well,
one
they're not
male.
promoting climate change, they're promoting addressing climate change.
Yeah, sorry. And and both the teams have and all the teams have one male and one female driver. So let's look at the teams. The first team is Cupra XE team with Claudia Herdgen and Mattia Ekstrom. Mattia Ekstrom is, of course, a DTM champion, two-time DTM champion, and a long-time Audi and AB factory driver. Claudia Herdgen is one of Europe's most prominent female racing drivers and has success in variety of touring car and sports car championships.
Absolutely, and Matthias Ekstrom is also a WRX 2016 WRX champion. We saw him race last year too in the WRX series, going up against Johan Kristoffersen, who's also in the series, and we'll get to him later. But yeah, and the second team, which has had a lot of hype behind it, especially since the name is also in Formula One. The Acciona Sainz Extreme E team that has Elias Saz and Carlos Sainz Sr., whose son Carlos Jr. is racing in Formula One currently. We all know Carlos Sainz Sr. is arguably one of the greatest rally drivers of all time. He's a two-time FIA World Rally Champion, won it in 1990 and 92. He's also won the Dakar Rally 3 times in 2010, 18, and 2020. Had it a kind of disappointing run this year though. And Laya Saz, she's a biking legend, trial world champion 13 times. Again, like I said, varied background. She's also participated in the Enduro World Championship on 5 occasions and has finished the Dakar Rally 10 times between 2011 and 2020. And she finished 9th overall in 2015, achieving the best result ever by a woman in the motorcycle category on the event. I think that's a team to look out for. It's got varied background, a lot of experience behind the wheel. And I think, they might just take the very first Extreme E World Championship.
Yeah, that's a great team. They have a strong off-roading experience. It will be great to see Carlos Sainz Sr. racing, and I'm sure a lot of Formula One fans will get behind Carlos Sainz Sr. along with other Formula One drivers teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people like us, who didn't grow up watching Carlos Sainz Sr. Do rallies, I think it's a great opportunity for us to see one of the greats of rally step out again and race competitively in a series. But yeah,
Definitely. So the third team is Andretti United Extreme E team. So two greats of American motorsports coming together. And the female driver is Katie Munnings. She won the European Rally Championship Ladies Trophy in 2016 when she was just 18 years old. And the second driver is Timmy Hansen, the 2019 WRX Drivers Champion. And you know a lot about WRX, a lot more about WRX than me.
yeah.
How is Timmy Hansen?
He's definitely a talent to look out for. He definitely makes the races much more interesting. He's always in there, and he's always trying to put a move that no one else would. Never count him out. That's all I can say. WRX is a different series, and he's definitely shown there. As you can see, he's won the World RX Drivers title. So you don't just win. WRX is a contact sport, right? And,
Yeah.
it's not like Formula One where they're not trying to touch wheels, they're not trying to bang wheels. They go all out, and they're not scared of crashing into each other to take the win. So definitely a talent to look out for. And the fourth team is Hispano Suiza, and it's got I don't know much about where the team is coming from, but they have Oliver Bennett. He's a WRX driver in the team, and Christine Giampoli Zonca. In 2020, apparently she became the main driver of Avatel Racing Team, achieving third place in the T2 category in the Andalusia Road to Dakar Rally. So I guess young talent in that team. We'll see what's to come.
Definitely. Unfortunately, we don't know a lot about some of these drivers, and hopefully we'll learn to know them, and like
Yeah, we'll get to know
we'll
them,
follow
and
them.
we'll see what they're made of. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the fifth team is one of the most look one of the most followed teams, I suppose, the Jensen Button Extreme E team. Jensen Button, obviously, 2009 Formula One champion, and and recently he's been racing a lot more off road, and he did the Mint 400 and the Baja 1000, and of course he raced in Japan after his Formula One career, and their female driver is Michaela Kotulinski, who was the first female driver to win a race in the Scandinavian Touring Car Championship in 2018. So another great talent to look out for.
Exactly, and Jensen Button brings a lot of talent and experience to the team. Besides Michaela Kotulinski, you don't just become a world champion for no reason, right? And then for the sixth team, we have another world champion sponsoring the team. It's Rosberg X Racing, and I believe the stands for Extreme once again. So Rosberg Extreme Racing, but he won't be racing himself, unfortunately. Instead, Johan Kristoffersen and Molly Taylor will be racing for the team. Johan Kristoffersen has been the dominant force in World RX. He seemed unbeatable last year when I was watching WRX, and if he carries that form into Extreme, I think he'll be one of the unstoppable people. He's already claimed 3 of the 4 drivers' titles since 2017, ever since he started participating in WRX. And Molly Taylor is an established name in national and international rallying. So again, a lot of talent in that team, and I think they'll be fast right out of the block. So I'm excited about the Rosberg Extreme Racing team.
Definitely, another like world champions against world champions. Unfortunately, only Jensen Button is the only owner who is also driving in Extreme E. But yeah, great to see Johan Kristoffersen racing. The next team is another American legendary team, Chip Ganassi, and so they have Sarah Price, and she currently works as a stunt professional, performing stunts in television and film. And they have Kyle Leduc, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and he became the most recent champion of the Pro 4 Championship in 2020, and his first title came in 2012. So that's a big like that's a long lasting career for 8 years. 8 years dominating the sport, I suppose.
Absolutely, and again, a lot of experience in that team again. But since we don't know a lot about these people and what they've achieved, and we haven't really followed them before, we can't say much. And I know we're looking forward to like learning more about them when we watch Extreme E and to know what they're made of. And the 8th team on the grid is Veloce Racing, and driving for them will be Jamie Chadwick and Stefan Sarazin, if I'm pronouncing that right. So we all know Jamie Chadwick from the W Series and as the Williams Development driver. Jamie Chadwick did win the 2019 W Series. And then Stefan Sarazin has a lot of experience behind the wheel. He's got 6 podium finishes in the legendary Le Mans 24 Hours. He's got 2 Le Mans Series title wins and multiple victories in the FIA World Endurance Championship to his name. And his first international rallying triumph came on the 2014 Tour de Corse. So, like I said, a lot of experience behind the wheel, and it's a great opportunity, I feel, for Jamie Chadwick to learn from this, from her teammate. And Veloce Racing has been a household name for sim racers and people who follow the sim racing community for the last couple of races. So I think they'll have a lot of support coming towards them, coming their way.
Yeah, definitely. Veloce Racing is an up and coming name in the motorsport world. And the last team, the 9th team, is of course X44, Lewis Hamilton's team, and they have a lineup which cannot be beaten. Sebastian Loeb, 9-time WRC champion, 9-time consecutive WRC champion.
WRC, yeah, absolutely.
He has 79 wins in WRC to his name. He has reached the Dakar Rally podium twice. He has been on the overall podium for Le Mans a few times, and he has even participated in a few Formula One test sessions. And so, yeah, a legend in off-road, one of the greatest off-road drivers of all time.
And alongside Sebastian Loeb is Cristina Gutierrez. She secured a second place overall position in the mixed gender all-terrain Spanish Rally Championship, finishing top of the female category between 2011 and 2016. And like you said, Vedant, this team definitely looks unbeatable. They definitely look the favorites going into the Extreme E Championship. And I wouldn't expect anything less from a world champions team either. But yeah, once again, I think the teams and drivers participating in this series is probably the most exciting thing besides the locations itself. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing these individuals from different backgrounds come together and race each other in unknown locations in a really weird yet exciting setting. So a lot to look forward to, like I said. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Extreme E's race format is also very different. So let's dive into it. So every race weekend for Extreme E, there will be 2 days of racing on Saturday and Sunday. And each team will race twice on Saturday in qualifying round 1 and qualifying round 2. And on Sunday, we'll have semi-final 1, semi-final 2, and the final. The thing to know is each race is only 2 laps. Now, this is rather scary. I hope the laps are long.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to say, but each race is just 2 laps. 1 lap driven by the female driver and the other lap driven by the male driver. And all results are based on the race finishing position and not the race time. But yeah, definitely an interesting race format. But let's dive more into it, and let's talk about how exactly does this work. So there'll be 4 races held on Saturday. There'll be qualifying round 1, which will have 2 races, and qualifying round 2, which will also have 2 races. Qualifying round 1, race 1 will field 5 cars, and qualifying round 1, race 2 will have 4 competing cars. And similarly for round 2. Now the choice of starting position for qualifying round 1 will be based on a lottery draw. And the Saturday event points for each race will be as 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, depending on where you finish. And the top 4 point scorers after Saturday's races qualify for semi-final 1, and the remaining teams qualify for semi-final 2. Does that make sense, Vedant?
I am following you for now.
Okay. Alright. And then on Sunday, you have the semi-finals and the final. Now, the 4 cars in semi-final 1 and the 5 cars in semi-final 2 will compete against each other for the final. So the top 3 teams from semi-final 1 and the first and second place teams from semi-final 2 will qualify for the final. Now the starting position for the final is something that is decided by the fans. So make sure, if you're listening to this and if you'll be watching Extreme E and if you're supporting one of the teams, to vote for your team so that they can start at the front of the grid. At the front of the grid. So as I said, starting position for the final will be decided by fans through grid play voting system. So make sure you vote for your team, and the standby teams for the finals will be the third and fourth place team in semi-final 1. It will be the 4th place team in semi-final 1. I hope that made sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you have qualifying round 1 and qualifying round 2, and
then we
you
have
get points
semis,
for finishing. And whoever's got the most points, the top 3 teams go to semi-final 1. The top 4 teams go to semi-final 1, and the bottom 5 go to semi-final 2. Then 3 teams qualify from semi-final 1, and 2 teams qualify from semi-final 2. And then the final qualifying position is based on the grid play voting system, depending on fan votes. The only thing that I think we are missing here is how is the grid starting position chosen for qualifying round 2. But I think I didn't find anything on the website regarding that, but I'm sure we'll get to know once the races start this weekend. Interestingly, after the final, the points of the driver championships and the team championships is not like what it is for a lot of other FIA World Championships, like F1. Instead, this time we have 25 points for first place, 15 for second, and 10 for third. And then we have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 points as you go down the order until 10th place. And if a team is disqualified from a semi-final or final, they will receive no points for the race, obviously. So yeah, and like I said, an interesting format, and I hope the laps are longer and we get to see a lot of the terrain there, which is why it's a remote place and it's supposed to be beautiful. So we get to see more of that through the race weekends.
Yeah, that was a very confusing weekend format, but it is fun at the same time because like we are so used to conventional race formats. We are not open to a different one, and I hope it can grow on us over time. But I'm still confused because we only know that there are 9 teams. Right, there are only 9 cars, and the point scoring positions are 10. So,
That is a great question. That is absolutely a great question. So I think no one will be receiving 1 point. I totally forgot about that when I was going through our note sheet.
yeah,
But
but
I
that
guess
was all.
I guess even if you finish last, you'll have a couple points. So you don't have to feel bad like you do, like how Williams didn't score a point last year, but this year you can score a point even if you finish last if you're participating in Extreme E.
Yeah, definitely, because like we can't help it because that was what was on their website, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. Which is why I'm saying we haven't received a lot of communication from Extreme E in the recent past, and these questions are out there, the little niggles, and there's no one to answer them. So hopefully, as the race weekend starts this week, we'll get some of the answers to our questions, and I hope there'll be some great racing to watch.
Definitely. So we are very excited for the first round of Extreme E to get underway, and let's see how all these teams and how the championship itself works.
Definitely, looks very promising, and I hope it delivers. Any closing thoughts from you, Vedant, before we wrap up this podcast?
Well, I would just like to say, to our listeners who have made it to 30 minutes on this podcast about Extreme E, a completely new racing series. Please be open to new racing, like, because we see a lot of people following only Formula 1, and a lot of, like, we don't see a lot many fans in different other racing series. So I hope with Jensen Button and with Lewis Hamilton and with Nico Rosberg and Carlos Sainz and all these guys who can pull fans to this series. I just hope that Extreme E gets that attention and gets that fan following from day one onwards.
Absolutely, and at the end of the day, it is more racing for us fans. So there is no reason to not tune in to watch more motorsport. So I would definitely encourage everyone to watch Extreme E. I think it's going to be really exciting, and you can always catch all the Extreme E news on the Motorsport Baithak channel throughout the year. So thank you for joining me, Vedant. Thank you for joining us, our listeners, and thank you for listening to us. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.